can be even better. So now this OLPC project is based on Seymour Papert's ideas about teaching children to even program when they're very young, and Alan Kay's ideas about like the Dynabook and object-oriented programming, and just kids learning how do kids learn. So and one of the important things about constructionism is kids helping each other and communicating and teaching each other. So let's see. So I took the old X11 version, and I had made it multiplayer for X Windows, but I simplified that and took that out for this. And now that's on the OLPC. So what we really needed to do was to make a new version that had a much better user interface designed to take advantage of the things the OLPC can do. So they use Python as the scripting language for OLPC. And let's see. Let me go on. Okay, so the goals, we want to make a fun game that's based on the original source code, and constructionist education is sort of the overall thing, but it's very hard to figure out how that actually manifests itself in a game. But we're using free open source software and making it distributed, run centralized on a server. And we want to put in things to support collaboration and voting and teach democracy, and also teach language skills and interpersonal communication skills. So let's see. So far what I've done, we took this TCL TKX11 version, cleaned it up, got it through EA's quality assurance, and put it on the one laptop per child. Then I stripped down the code and made it into C++, and then cleaned it up and refactored it, took out all the user interface. So that then started building a new user interface on top of it. Now I had a very good, I guess I can't, back to the presentation. Okay, I had some really great help from some people, a volunteer. Albert Hofkamp is a Dutch university programmer that he helped me clean up this code and put Doxygen documentation into it. And so now the code is much sturdier and easier to do something with. And Tom Tionaloy is an artist that's also helping on the project, and I'll show you some ideas that we've put together about what direction it's going to go in the future. And let's see. I'm also working with Robert Shepard, the Eduverse Foundation, to make this into an educational game. And also we're benefiting from the Kennisnet and IBM Netherlands, who are helping us make an educational version of this game. So the idea is like this OLPC is kind of like something for people to focus on and get a bunch of people on board to really make this happen. And what's really wonderful is I have had some really great conversations about this with and encouragement from Alan Kay, who's he's been trying to do this stuff for years with kids, making his criticisms of SimCity were that you can't see inside of it and understand what it's doing, and you have to accept it as a black box. So now I'm trying to solve that problem. So we are using a whole bunch of open source software, building on top of it, and then making new software that's open source. Let's see, one of the things the OLPC project wants game developers to do is to make games out of modular components that can be plugged together to make other games. So I'm separating out the tile engine of SimCity and the sprites and the sound, and trying to make those work for other things. So the architecture of the web version is there's a C++ game, and then I'm using the Swig. Swig is a tool for making wrappers for libraries and plugging them into extension languages. And it lets you get your library to a whole bunch of different extension languages. So right now, it's Python, but it could be Lua or Java or whatever. So then there's another layer, which is like gluing the game into Python. And the nice thing about Swig is you can subclass your C++ classes in Python and then just script everything in a nice language. So it's all open source stuff, and the web server does HTTP, and it does Adobe AMF, which is kind of like binary JSON. Now I'm doing the client in another open source scripting language called OpenLazlo, And OpenLaslo is like JavaScript and XML that gets compiled into Flash, but it will also compile into just generic DHTML. So right now I'm concentrating on just getting the Flash interface working, and then once that's all, the paint's dry on that, I can then do the parts that were Flash specific using like the canvas in DHTML and things. So the intention is to get it independent of Flash, but Flash is the fastest way to get it working first. So on the other thing, I have a GTK user interface, so for the desktop. And but let's see. So another important thing is internationalizing it and taking all the strings out. And I would love to have volunteers to help translate it to other languages. I've made a little web-based tool to do that. So we're doing this for the Dutch educational system with Kennisnet support. So let's see. So now previously, I made a multiplayer version of this for X11, and X11 doesn't scale very well, and it was kind of an experiment, but it did test out some ideas of making it a collaborative, cooperative game instead of a competitive game. So I didn't want to mess up the game, but I wanted to layer another social game on top of it. So we're all sharing the same money, but we're trying to achieve the same goal. So if somebody does something that pisses you off, you're going to be mad at them and won't play with them, and you'll get to, that will play out at a higher level than the game. So basically, it's got voting for expensive things like making a nuclear power plant or changing the taxes, and then non-expensive things are just a free-for-all. So, but really, I want to revisit the multiplayer game, but first get a really solid base to build it on top of, and doing a web-based game is the best way to do that. So, let's see. There's So anyway, so I'm adding stuff like integrating it with Wikimedia. So the one of the important things about constructionist education is getting people to help each other out and chat. I want to teach language skills with this, not just how to be a good mayor. That's not the goal. It's how to write about what you want to do and convince other people to vote for it. So, and this, I think it's going to be nice to embed this in things like Facebook and Wikimedia, because what you're doing is writing stories in newspapers and blogging. Like The Sims had something called Sims Exchange, where when you save your game file, it also writes out a bunch of web files that describe the house, the family, the story you've told about them with pictures, and then it uploads that to the web. So really, playing the game is a web publishing tool. So I want to apply those ideas to SimCity, and that would be in the form of a newspaper. So you could act as a journalist and write. When something happened, these events in the game are generating opportunities for you to click on it and open it up and write about what your interpretation of it is, and then automatically push it into a wiki page or like a blog. And so basically the result of playing a game will be this rich save file that has points of interest with stories attached to them, so that you could look at it geographically as a map to see all the points of interest. You could look at it as a calendar, like a blog, and then all these things that happen with a story can link to a save file, so you can then jump back into the game at that point. So basically, I want to make the sort of like TiVo for SimCity is the eventual goal.